It's January 28th, 2015, and welcome to the first episode this year of Arizona Mining Review. I'm your host, Lee Allison, here at the Arizona Geological Survey in Tucson. And joining us, as usual, at the start of each show is Nyal Niemuth, head of our Economic Geology program based in Phoenix. So, Happy New Year, Nyal, and welcome back to the show.
Happy New Year to you as well, Lee. Good morning. Good to be here.
Well, I think the big story as we kick off this year is the price of copper. It's down tremendously over the last year, and it seems to be dropping almost daily. What's going on with copper?
That's a great question. I wish I had a good answer. The only thing we know for certain is we've seen a steep drop on some days. Middle of the month, we had it on nearly a 20-cent intraday decline in the price. And the following week, we've had a day with nearly a 10-cent drop in copper prices.
But overall, from a year ago, copper's down, 60, 70 cents a pound?
Yeah, if we look at a monthly price a year ago, we would have been at 340, and today we're at 250, so 90 cents a
90
dollar.
cents. Okay, so it's dropping faster than I saw.
I'm comparing a monthly average to an assumed monthly average. You don't have actual figures for the month yet.
Okay, got it. So the lowest price we've seen in probably more than 5 years.
That's right. I was looking up some figures, and to see a monthly average comparable to what we had or what we're expecting for January, we probably have to go back to July of 2009 or earlier.
Okay, well now at the price we're talking about as we're on air today, are we getting down to the point where some of the mines are going to be losing money and have to worry about them shutting down or curtailing production, particularly in Arizona? Do you have a sense of where the breaking point is when the mines really have to start rethinking their operational plans?
I'm sure they're rethinking their operational plans as we speak.
Okay.
A number of years ago, with the advance in computer technology, I remember might have been at Morenci, and I think they recalculated their mining plan daily. And so with this kind of downward trend, you know those plans, the amount of stripping they're doing, the areas that they're going to mine, deciding where the cutoff is to the mill, that they've made those adaptations and continue to do so. And looking at the broader picture, I haven't seen any figures for Arizona properties, but there's been some reporting in the Canadian media that maybe a fifth of their operations are probably running in the red already.
Ooh, that's significant.
In terms of operating cash flow.
Okay.
Cash costs.
Now, the numbers I've seen suggested that just a few more cents down in the $2.40 range may be a breaking point for a lot of U.S. and particularly Arizona mines, but there's so much variation among the mines, that's probably too much of a generalization.
The good news, if there is any, is many of the mines have a fair amount of flexibility. They can reduce milling, put more material on leaching, or defer mining leach material, but just leach, continue to have production. So we'll see how they adapt. Okay. The early guidance we've seen from Capstone earlier in January, was able to look fairly positive at the prices we had then. The problem is we continue to see the price declining.
Right. But now, even with that, we've seen Phoenix-based FreeportMcMoran come forward and said they're investing $17 billion in their Indonesian operations. $2 billion of that will be for a new smelter, because Indonesia's pushing them to not export raw materials, but to put some of that value added in, so that the copper's coming out of the Grasberg mine is processed in Indonesia before it goes out, and another $15 billion on the further development of that mine. So long term, it certainly suggests that Freeport and on a global environmental or global environment sees copper still as a good investment.
What you say is all true. I guess I'd like to add the comment: we shouldn't forget what a significant gold producer the Grasberg deposit is. Okay. And although we're talking today about declining price of copper, and of course some of that may relate to the strong dollar we're having right now, we have to remember that we're actually seeing gold prices rise, and we're at about $1,300 an ounce.
Okay, very good point.
And obviously they're making a long-term investment.
Right.
And like you say, the Indonesian government's kind of got their back to the wall on that.
Okay. Well, this is clearly one of the big stories of the year, and one we're going to be continuing to follow because it has such a big impact on the Arizona mining industry, both for production in Arizona and for Arizona companies that work around the world. So uh, it's already having some impact, I think, here in the state. Mineral Park, uh, bankruptcy and closure. You want to bring us up to date on what's happening there?
Yeah, that was a deteriorating situation. If we go back to the summer of 2014, we had Mercator trying to find a buyer for the operations, trying to find a merger, a partner, and was failing to do so. So in August, they declared bankruptcy and had kind of cut their operation in Arizona free, if you will. The board members were jumping off, some of the officers were jumping out of the company. And so we saw Mineral Park declare bankruptcy. And they're incorporated in Delaware, so that's in the federal bankruptcy court there. Late in the year, just after the Christmas holiday, but before the New Year holiday, they announced that they were going to run an 8-week program to go into care and maintenance, and would be laying off 380 employees.
But now the assets have been sold, and it seems to be a little bit of a surprise.
I think it's a big, especially the speed at which the approval of the sale occurred.
Mm.
And maybe to give some sense of that, the sale is going to include not only what we may think of as the Mineral Park mine operation, but it also is going to include a power facility. A lot of the electricity that's generated there is from a natural gas plant that was at another, like if you will, sister company, Bluefish Energy.
Now, how much of this was due to the global drop in copper price, and how much of it do you think was just problems with that particular property?
Yeah, again, to bring up a new commodity, molybdenum certainly played a role. Mid-year of 2014, we had fairly strong, and I'm not quite sure why we had that run up in molybdenum prices, but at the end of the year here, we were seeing moly prices down at about $9 a pound. And when we look at Mineral Park, it definitely is more of a co-product mine, and so they're hit with a double whammy, the lower copper as well as molybdenum price. And so that played a big role. The other issue was they had a lot of debt. They with the earlier failed mergers, they kept adding to their debt, so they just kept digging a deeper hole.
Okay, so bottom line is this may not be a portent for other copper mines in Arizona. This was somewhat of a unique situation for Mineral Park.
Yeah, the very low grades there, and especially being so dependent upon molybdenum hurts them worse than the other operations.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying that one. Well, we've had another mine, the Gold Road closure. It looks like Mojave County's really getting nailed because this is 2 mines here in a relatively short time. What's going on with that one?
Lee, do you mind if I go back for a second and just
Oh.
make one point that might help some of the viewers understand some of the new names they may be hearing at Mineral Park?
Oh, good. Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Because I at least in the media that I've seen here in Phoenix and generally look at, I haven't seen much reporting on this issue. I've had some calls already where people are asking who Origin Mining LLC was. And if you chase through the corporate filings, what you learn is that there's a company called Waterton Global Resource Management. And that's actually got offices up in Toronto. And so that's the private equity group that's behind the asset purchase. They were able to come up with $10 million to complete the sale, and they also are going to kick in $3.5 million towards some ongoing environmental reclamation liabilities. A lot of the other liabilities and debts are going to be, it appears, and of course there's always details in the bankruptcy hearings, but a lot of those are going to be flushed away, which we'll see if they continue to run the property on that care and maintenance basis, or if they're able to, without some of those continuing costs, to find a way in changing the mining plan, et cetera, to make it profitable. Anyway, so those are some of the names people might look for: Origin Mining and Waterton.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up. So there is a potential then for possibly starting things back up with some of those liabilities off the balance sheet, some new cash coming in. So we definitely need to be watching that one pretty closely.
Yeah, and again, people, I certainly didn't know who this group was, but in doing a little research, I've learned that they're focused on metal mining. We saw them pick up the Hollister mine up in the Carlin Trend and operate that for a while in terms of lower gold prices before they did end up shutting down that property. So we'll have to see what they do with Mineral Park.
Okay, so they've got some experience in doing this. This wasn't a group just put together for this particular sale, was it?
No, they appear quite well funded, and this is their third acquisition.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, well, by next month, we ought to have a little better understanding of where they're going and what their plans are, so let's plan on following up on this one.
We'll be watching that closely.
Okay, well, good then. Well, let's go back then and Gold Road. What's happened there?
Yeah, Gold Road's been running about 4 years, if memory serves correctly. And the last year or more, though, they haven't been doing much mining at the property. They've been reprocessing some older tailings of the United Eastern mine, which is relatively nearby, and feeding them through their cyanide mill. But they announced late mid-month, that they're going to lay off 60 employees and shut down their operation. And so one would guess that with decline we have seen overall in gold prices, and perhaps maybe some tailings grades that haven't met their expectations, that for now they're going to call it quits.
So even with the price of gold starting to pick up a little bit here, it sounds like their expectations of what they had either in the tailings or in the ground weren't what the economics of the mine were originally based on.
Yeah, Harvey Desert Minerals is a private company, so again, we're kind of, we don't get out to the mine very often,
Right.
and we don't get much public release of information, so we have to speculate.
Okay. All right. Well, Niall, it's kind of a mixed environment that we're starting the year off with, but there are a couple of announcements, some events coming up to showcase the mining industry here in Arizona. February 11th is Mining Day at the Capitol, and the mining industry will be there, and they typically bring in a lot of the big equipment and showcase this to legislators and other leaders in the state capitol. And the Arizona Survey will be there. We're going to have a table and informational materials about mining in Arizona. So we'll look forward to seeing you up there, and AMR will be there, and we're hoping to have some interviews with some of our leaders in the legislature and state government and talk about their views about mining. And then 2 days later here in Tucson, we've got Mining Appreciation Day with a luncheon. Last year they sold out and had something like 80 people on the waiting list to get in. It turned out to be kind of one of the bigger events for the mining industry to get together and talk about the status of things and where we're going. And again, some of the state leadership, elected leadership will be there, and key speakers from around the industry. So we'll be there, and we'll be filming that, and hopefully be able to put that up on our YouTube channel as well, with the speakers and conversations with some of the leaders there. So Niall, thanks for joining us again today, and we've got a lot of stories to follow, and it should be an interesting year the way things are starting off.
Look forward to sharing some of the upcoming events with the audience getting out of the office. That'd be great.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Niall.